What if I told you that I died, stood before God, and was shown a prophecy that will change the course of America's future? It started as an ordinary day, like any other. I never could have imagined that a single moment would change everything. A car crash, sudden, violent, left me clinically dead for several minutes. But what happened in those minutes was beyond anything I had ever believed possible. I was taken into a realm of dazzling light, a place beyond this world. There, in the overwhelming presence of God, I saw things I cannot unsee. I was shown secrets, revelations about the White House, about the future of this nation, about events that will shake America to its core in the coming months. Before we unravel these shocking revelations, like and subscribe to stay informed on messages that expose the unseen and prepare us for what's coming. It happened in an instant. One moment, I was behind the wheel, my hands steady, my mind lost in thought. The road stretched ahead, familiar, routine, just another drive on just another day. Then, everything changed. A flash of movement, the screech of tires, the sickening crunch of metal twisting against metal. My body jerked forward, weightless for a split second before the force of the impact ripped me from consciousness. Silence. A silence deeper than anything I had ever known. No pain, no sound, just an eerie stillness, like the world had paused. Then, a sensation floating. I wasn't in my body anymore. I could see it, slumped against the shattered glass, motionless. People rushed to the wreckage, voices shouting, hands pulling at the door, sirens in the distance. But none of it felt real, because I wasn't there anymore. Darkness swallowed everything. It wasn't cold or suffocating. It just was. A void, stretching infinitely in all directions. I was nowhere. Then out of the emptiness came light. Not a harsh, blinding flash, but a radiant, living presence, filling everything, pulling me toward it. Warmth washed over me, not on my skin, but deep in my soul. I knew, without question, that I was no longer in the world I had known. Then, a voice, not spoken, not heard, it resonated through me. You are not finished. There is something you must see. And in that moment, I understood. This wasn't a dream. I was dead, and I was standing at the threshold of something far greater than anything I had ever imagined. I stood in the brilliance of that heavenly realm, weightless, as if time itself had stopped. The voice, the presence, commanded my attention, and suddenly, the vision unfolded before me. I was no longer in the light. I was standing in a place I recognized, a place millions recognized. The White House, but something was wrong. The air was heavy with tension. I could feel the weight of deception, fear, and power struggling for control. The corridors of power were filled with whispers, arguments behind closed doors, alliances breaking apart. The leaders of the nation, those entrusted with guiding America, were at war, not with enemies abroad, but with each other. I watched as key officials clashed, their disagreements turning into something deeper, something darker. Loyalty was unraveling, and the very foundation of leadership was crumbling. Then came the scandal, a revelation so damning, so shocking, that it sent ripples of outrage through the nation. I could hear the voices of the people, their trust shattered, their faith in the government eroding like sand in a storm. Television screens flashed with breaking news. Protesters filled the streets. The divide grew deeper, not just in politics, but in the hearts of the people. For the rulers of the people have been set in a place of judgment, yet they shall be found wanting. Psalm 82 verse 2. And then, in the midst of the chaos, it happened. I saw a figure of great influence, a leader whose presence had commanded respect and trust. America believed in this person, and yet they were leaving. I saw them step away from the podium, their voice trembling as they spoke to the public. For my health, they said, for personal reasons. But I knew, the real reason was hidden. Behind closed doors, in the halls where the people's eyes could not see, something else was at play. A struggle for power, whispers of betrayal, and the reshuffling of leadership in ways that no one had expected. One resignation led to another. The government shifted. Roles were reassigned. New faces emerged, and with each change, the sense of stability weakened. The White House was not at peace. The kings of the earth set themselves, and the rulers take counsel together, against the Lord, and against his anointed. Psalm 2 verse 2. The unrest in the government did not stay confined within the walls of the White House. It seeped into the streets, into the hearts and minds of the people. The division in leadership became a reflection of a greater divide, one that had been festering for years but now stood fully exposed. The country was not just politically fractured, it was spiritually lost. Some began to question everything. Their faith in their leaders crumbled, and with it, their faith in institutions, in truth, in morality itself. Chaos spread, not just in protests and anger, but in confusion, in uncertainty. Others, desperate for something real, something solid, began to search for answers beyond what the news or the government could offer. A stirring, faint at first, began to rise across the nation. People turned to prayer, not out of tradition, but out of desperation. A wave of spiritual awakening swept through the land. People who had long dismissed the idea of God, who had lived without a second thought about eternity, began to feel an undeniable pull. Churches that had once sat half-empty found themselves overflowing. Hands that had never been lifted in worship now trembled with repentance. A hunger for truth, for redemption, for something beyond the corruption of man, began to take root. It was as if hearts had been broken open, forced to face the reality that human power could not save them. If my people, who are called by my name, will humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then I will hear from heaven, and I will forgive their sin and will heal their land. 2 Chronicles 7 verse 14. But just as hope began to rise, so did fear. The vision shifted, and I saw a darkness moving toward the nation. Something hidden, something unexpected. It was not a political scandal or civil unrest. It was something far worse. The White House was on high alert. I saw frantic movements, secure doors locking, red lights flashing. The atmosphere was thick with urgency. A nation caught off guard. A threat was coming not from within but from outside, striking at the heart of the country when it was most vulnerable. It was an attack that no one had anticipated, a moment of terror that would send shockwaves across the nation. The streets emptied. A deep fear settled in, a fear that did not fade when the immediate danger passed, but remained, pressing down on the nation's soul like a weight that could not be lifted. You will hear of wars and rumors of wars, but see to it that you are not alarmed. Such things must happen, but the end is still to come. Matthew 24 verse 6. The test was no longer just about leadership. It was about the resilience of the people. It was about faith, about whether America would turn toward God in its greatest hour of need, or whether it would continue to walk blindly into the storm. The vision shifted once more, and I found myself standing in a place that was neither earth nor heaven, but somewhere in between. I felt the weight of the moment pressing down on me, heavy, urgent, inescapable. The presence that had guided me through the revelations now surrounded me again. Powerful, unshakable, yet filled with an overwhelming sorrow. Then, the voice came, not in anger, not in condemnation, but in warning. Tell the people they must prepare. The words rang through me, not just in my ears but in my very soul. I understood. This was not just about political turmoil. This was not just about an attack on the nation. This was a test, one that reached beyond the government, beyond policies, beyond headlines. This was a test of the hearts of the people. I saw the next 6 months unfold before me like pages in an unwritten book. There would be struggles, uncertainty, and fear. There would be deception, power shifts, and deepening divisions. But I also saw something else. I saw the crossroads. The nation stood on the edge of a precipice. On one side was repentance, a turning back, a return to the foundation that had been forgotten. On the other was destruction, a path that would lead to chaos beyond anything seen before. The choice was before them, but time was running short. America is being tested, the voice continued. Not just in leadership, but in spirit. The next 6 months will determine the path that follows. They must turn back to me before it is too late. I wanted to plead, to ask if there was another way, if the course was already set. But I knew the answer. The future was not yet written in stone. It was in the hands of the people. The hearts of the nation would decide its fate. The vision began to fade. The brilliant light that had enveloped me started to dim. The weight of the message settled on my chest like a fire burning from within. Then, with one final surge of power, the voice spoke again. Warn them. And then I woke up. I woke up to the sound of machines beeping, the rhythmic hum of medical equipment surrounding me. My chest rose and fell in short, desperate gasps, as if I had been pulled from deep underwater. My skin was cold, damp with sweat, and for a moment, I didn't know where I was. The fluorescent lights above me were harsh, too bright, too real. I blinked, trying to adjust, but my mind was still trapped between two worlds, between the hospital room and the vision that had just been burned into my soul. I could still hear the voice. Tell the people they must prepare. I could still see the images. The White House in crisis, a nation divided, the streets filled with unrest, the chilling moment when security broke down, the warning that time was running short. A nurse rushed in. You're awake. Her voice was relieved, almost disbelieving. She checked the machines, speaking quickly into her radio. Within moments, doctors surrounded me, checking vitals, shining lights into my eyes, asking questions. I barely heard them. How long? My voice was hoarse, barely a whisper. You were gone for several minutes, one of the doctors said. Clinically dead. But you came back. I came back. But I wasn't the same. Something inside me had changed, shifted. I wasn't just a man recovering from an accident. I was a man carrying a message, one that I could not ignore. The days that followed were a blur of tests, medications, and concerned glances from the medical staff. They told me I was lucky, that most people don't come back after what I had been through. But I knew luck had nothing to do with it. I had been sent back for a reason. The urgency never left me. The vision replayed in my mind over and over, pressing on me like a weight I could not shake. Every headline I saw, every political debate, every new crisis, it all pointed to the same truth. The time was short. The warnings had already begun. I knew that if I stayed silent, I would be ignoring what God had shown me. I had to speak. I had to warn the people. Will these prophecies come to pass? Will the nation heed the warning? Or will it continue down the path of division, corruption, and crisis? The vision I was shown was not just a glimpse into the future. It was a call to action, a chance to turn back before it's too late. What does this mean for the future of America? It means we are standing on the edge of something monumental, something that will define the course of history. The storm is already forming, the battle lines already being drawn, not just in government, but in the hearts of the people. I share this message not to create fear, but to prepare those who are willing to listen. There is still time, but not much. The voice I heard, the presence I felt, the overwhelming clarity of what I was shown. It all comes down to one simple truth. The time is short. We must return to God before it's too late. If this prophecy shook you, if it made you think about the future of our nation, like and subscribe for more messages that expose the truth and reveal what's ahead. And if you have experienced a vision, dream, or warning, share it in the comments below. The world needs to hear it.